Hi, this is Kate from Generate Magic, and we all know that it's not good to resist change, but a lot of times we find ourselves doing it anyway. And so I really want to take this to the next level and not just talk about accepting change, but really embracing it and celebrating it. Because when we are just trying to accept something, right, it's the word trying. We're trying to do it, but we're not always that successful because it's like something that we should be doing, but we really don't want to. Whereas if you embrace and celebrate it, suddenly it's no longer a matter of like trying to do something or trying not to do something. It's just part of your nature, and it's actually something that you look forward to. Like, it's kind of the difference between eating healthy foods and doing exercise that you enjoy versus just doing it because you think it's what you should be doing. And so I read a quote, and unfortunately when I learned the hard way that when I take the camera away from me to try to read the quote, then it stops filming. And so I don't have it, memorized verbatim, but it's from Rob Bresney. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He has a really great newsletter called Free Will Astrology. And he's actually quoting Alan Watts in the newsletter. But he's talking about the whole process of change. And he says how in nature, if you look at the clouds or if you look at the trees, blowing in the wind, everything is always shimmying and jiggling and wiggling. And so he calls it, I'm not sure if this is Watts or Bresney who coined this phrase, but I love it. He calls it the eternal wiggle. And as humans, we're always trying to tame reality, right? We're always trying to stop the wiggle, to get everything to be neat and orderly and just obey us. But of course, just like a puppy, it's not going to obey us, because that's its nature, is to constantly be wiggling. And so the more that we embrace it, the more ease that we have, and more crucially, the more joy that we have in our life. And so it actually, when I was reading this, it kind of reminded me recently that while I've been in Texas, there's just been really incredible sunsets, and which I don't know if it's like a new thing or I just kind of took it for granted, growing up. But every single night or every single evening, there's just this really spectacular sunset. And on top of that, even aside from the sunsets, the clouds are just always doing these incredible things. And so I took a picture recently, just a photo with my phone, and I posted the picture, and then somebody said something to the effect of, like, I have really good photography skills or something. And I was like, no, the clouds are just doing their thing. And then I just, have to show up and capture it at the right moment. But it's not even a matter of capturing it at the right moment. And because they're always constantly doing really cool things, and nature in general, right, it's just always moving, and there's always something to look at. Even if you don't live, in the middle of nature, like where I am right now, it's a small town. There's not really, there is the beach, so I don't want to take that for granted, but it's not like there's a ton of wildlife like Alaska or somewhere like that. But still, no matter where you live, even if you live in the middle of the city, I've lived in Los Angeles, I lived briefly in Mexico City, there's always something to look at. In nature, there's always birds and just always interesting things happening right out your door. And another thing that I thought of was, there was this book that I read years ago, a really good book. It was called Remainder by Tom McCarthy. And the book is about a man who somehow comes across, he has some sort of settlement, and where he gets a lot of money that he hadn't had a lot of money prior to this, but he's trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do with all this unexpected new money? And so he decides that he had some moment in his life where he felt like this was just the perfect moment. Like no other moment in his life can top this moment. And so he actually hires a film crew to try and recreate this moment. But as the story goes, he keeps finding new moments. And instead of looking at it from the perspective of, oh, wow, life is so spectacular and it's always just giving me these really cool moments, he's looking at it from the opposite perspective of, oh no, all these moments are, you know, happening, and I can't capture them. And even with this professional film crew, he can't, you know, he can't precisely capture exactly what the moment is, because we all know that every single moment is unique, right? And so, so nothing is going to capture the true essence, and it's also who you were in that moment. And there's just so much that goes into it. And so he really gets to a point of obsession and madness. And so when we're reading the book, we're thinking that, you know, this character is insane. But at the same time, I think there's a lot, it really kind of shows a lot of human nature, because we do try to kind of cling on to these moments, especially if it's something like a vacation, or I noticed a lot of nostalgia also. And so for instance, on YouTube, and I love, you know, music from the 70s and the 80s. And so I'll see, you know, some video, you know, from that time period, and all these comments are under the video saying, oh, they don't make music like this anymore. And just these, and whereas I look at it like, wow, it's so incredible that I can actually see all this, you know, listen to all this amazing music. Thanks to technology. And so, so again, you know, I think we tend, it tends to be kind of one or two ways, right? Either we're trying to kind of cling to certain moments and, you know, kind of hang on to the quote unquote good old days, and, or it's the opposite. You know, we don't like where we are at the moment, and well, actually, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it's the opposite now that I think about it, because if you're not happy with your current situation, then naturally you are going to be kind of either looking to the future, you know, looking to you know, kind of thinking about your dream life or your goals, or you're going to be looking to nostalgia. You're going to be looking to the past. But either way, it indicates that you're not happy with your current situation, when really your current situation, the present moment, is constantly just serving you up all of these spectacular moments. And the more observant you are to them, then the more you're able to capture them. And so, and the good news is that once you become tuned into that, I think the best way to describe it is tuned into that frequency. It's not really a frequency, but unfortunately, sometimes words don't always do a thing justice. So we just have to use the best words that we have. But yeah, when you, the more you're kind of attuned to really just kind of tuning into the present and becoming immersed in your surroundings, like just soaking up every moment for all it's worth, and really engaging all of your senses. So not just sight, but like sound and smell, and also just kind of engaging your emotions with it too. And so, and yeah, just kind of bringing your full being to each moment. And there's a really good clip from the comedian, again, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Jim Brewer, where he talks about growing up as a kid in New Jersey. And it was not like a rich, glamorous lifestyle at all. It was very much like a working class family. But he talks about these really magical days when he was a kid. And he says his mom would basically call in hooky to work. She would call in sick, and then she would call in sick for him as well. And it would be kind of their little secret. And then they would go to this Chinese restaurant. And it was just, there's a lot of restaurants like the one he described here in Texas too. It was no means like a nice restaurant or even an authentic restaurant. It was just some restaurant like in a strip mall. And, surface level, we would say, there's nothing, nothing special about it. But to him as a kid, it was magical, and just every single like detail. And he was even kind of describing like the fish in the tank and the music that they played. And the more we become like immersed in the details of our surroundings, the more we start to see that every single moment really is magical. And so in a sense, it's like the man in the book that I was describing, and that we are making these magic moments But instead of trying to kind of artificially create them, and instead of just trying to copy something from the past, we're using our current surroundings as a tapestry and really just engaging with the present moment to make magic moments each and every moment of the day, and kind of setting an intention that today is just going to be like a magical day, full of magical moments. So I think that's the difference between the two. And so the more you become attuned to this, and the more you become intentional about, again, just engaging with your present surroundings, like really just kind of throwing yourself full force into it and just soaking up everything for all it's worth, then the more you're not concerned about change, because you're like, it's all good. There's always something interesting happening. And, and if you happen to be having a crappy moment, you're like, well, it's going to change anyway. So it's not like it's not like you're going to be stuck there forever. And it almost becomes kind of like a game after a while. In the same way that taking cool photos is kind of like a game, right? It's like, oh, what can I capture today? But it's like you're actually the camera, or you're the device that's capturing. You're kind of like the lens, or I don't know. I'm trying to describe this, but basically it's your perspective is kind of the lens through which you're capturing reality, and you're kind of making a game of what cool snapshot can I come up with next? What cool moment can I come up with next? And really, again, just kind of like embracing all the changes. And this too, a lot of people, myself included, sometimes talk about how every day kind of tends to blend into the next, especially if you're like me and you work from home. Then you're not always so attuned to, like, Saturdays or Mondays. They all kind of start to seem the same. And so I think if you kind of feel like you've fallen into a rut, I think this can also be really good of again, just opening yourself up to your present and saying, okay, what about today is going to be different? What about today is really going to elevate this, so it's not just another day, and I'm not just going through my days on autopilot. So that is how to not just accept change, but embrace and celebrate change, and no matter what is going on around you. So thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.